So it's time to talk about a very special type of experiment that we do in chemistry called titration. Again, a titration is a type of experiment that we do in chemistry. It has a pretty unique goal as well. Titration is generally performed with acids and bases, but you can perform it with a whole bunch of other types of chemicals, which you tend to find out in AP chemistry. But it has a very unique purpose. Its purpose is really to find out the molarity of one of those two substances. But that means that you have to know one of the molarities going into it. So you can find the molarity of an acid, or you can find the molarity of a base. And it comes also with some very specialty equipment. You may have seen some of this equipment before. It looks a little bit like this. This weird top, almost looks like a really long graduated cylinder that has a valve down at the bottom of it. That lovely piece of equipment is called a burette. And into the burette, we put a very special solution. Now, I told you before, two solutions have to go into a titration. One you slowly drip over time into the other. Well, the solution that we put into the burette, we call the standard solution. Now, the standard solution is important because it has a known molarity, which means you can know and measure absolutely everything that you need to know about that solution. You can measure the volume off of the burette, and it would be the volume that you dispense out of it. And you know the molarity, so you'd very easily be able to calculate the number of moles. While the second solution, we really don't know anything about, and that would go down here in the flask. We call it the analyte. Again, the analyte has an unknown molarity. So what about acid-base reactions? It's kind of interesting. You just kind of take a look at an example. Say hydrochloric acid plus sodium hydroxide makes NaCl plus water. Well, let's actually physically take a look at the chemicals themselves. HCl, nice clear solution. NaOH, a nice clear solution. NaCl, a nice clear solution. And of course our favorite water, a nice clear solution. So how are we supposed to be able to tell when this reaction is actually going to be over? Because if all of my reactants are clear and all of my products are clear, you don't typically have the same signs of a chemical reaction that you can normally look for. Remember, those four signs were formation of a precipitate, bubbles, a heat change, or a color change. None of those exist, which is kind of wacky. So we have to turn to another chemical, a specialty type of chemical that changes color depending if it's on an acid or in a base. These special type of chemicals are kind of like additives. We call them indicators. And again, they change colors in different types of pH solutions. You can see here all of the solutions that are on the left-hand side of the screen would be in an acid solution, and they have one color. And then all the way to the right-hand side of the screen, they're in a basic solution and have a completely second color. Now, we in chemistry use a very special kind of indicator. It is called phenolphthalein. And we use it for very many types of reasons. There's really two that stick out in my mind. Number one, if you'll notice, it's the only indicator that goes from clear to pink. And that's actually pretty convenient, particularly for people who might suffer from color blindness. You might not be able to tell the difference between red and green or purple and orange, but you can definitely tell the difference between clear and colorful. And that's what phenolphthalein does. The second reason that phenolphthalein actually is pretty important is because it tends to change color right at around a neutral pH. Honestly, it's slightly above neutral, around a pH of 9, but it's still pretty good for what we're actually going to be using it for. All right, back to the burette, back to the titration. Let's take a look at this again. So where we tend to put the indicator is down inside of that analyte solution. So we'll just take a drop or two of it, and it tends to end up being one of those two colors. And we have to perform the titration to get it to turn. So let's get started with one. Again, we're going to focus in on HCl plus NaOH makes NaCl plus H2O. And I really want you to focus in what we're doing here. One solution has a low pH, one solution has a high pH, and we're trying to make something that has essentially a neutral pH. So if we add an indicator, the indicator would be clear in an acid. So if we have too much acid, excess acid, it will remain clear. If we put in too much base, it would be pink. But where we want to stop this titration is when it just starts to turn pink, the tipping point between acid and base. And that's how we're going to know when to stop our titration. Just wanted to show you this one more time. So this is what your analyte will tend to look like during the course of a titration. When it's clear, you aren't quite done with your titration. It's still mostly acid, and we haven't hit a neutral pH yet. All the way over on the right-hand side of the screen, if you go bright magenta, it's way overdone. Now what you mostly have in your container is base, and that's also not good. Where we want to stop is what I call baby butt pink. Smack dab in the middle, it's the faintest shade of pink that you could imagine. It's the perfect tipping point between acid and base. We call this point the end point because it is the point at which you are going to end your titration and take your measurements from. So speaking of measurements, let's take a look at some. So here's a sample problem. What is the molarity? That's the big indicator that this is going to be a titration problem. What is the molarity of 10 milliliters of an HCl solution that is titrated to the end point with 27.5 milliliters of 0.15 molar NaOH solution? Boy, is that a mouthful. Well, the first thing that I picked up right out of the gate is we are asked, what is the molarity of 10 milliliters of an HCl solution? I don't know what that molarity is, so that must mean it's the analyte. So when we're thinking about what the setup of this titration would look like, that means that this solution goes down into the Erlenmeyer flask with the indicator. The second thing I notice about this problem is that we're titrating it against 27.5 milliliters of 0.15 molar NaOH. I know its concentration. That must mean it's the standard solution, and it would go up in the burette. And that's a pretty important thing to know about how to set up a titration. Well, just like every single chemistry problem that we've done since the beginning of the year, when there's two chemicals inside of a problem, you better start off with a balanced chemical equation. And here is mine. And since we're given information about each chemical, I'm going to take the time to label the information underneath each chemical. And I can kind of see now that I need to be filling in the information for that molarity. But I'm given a whole bunch of other information. So before I begin, I'm going to remind myself that molarity is moles divided by liters. Do I know any of that information already? Well, yeah, I think we do. We're given the volume of that HCl solution. I could actually take that 10 milliliters right now and pop it into the lower half of my problem. I'm half done. That's great. But I still have to solve for the moles. And where am I going to get that information? Because I'm out of information now for HCl. I'm left with trying to figure out where to get those moles from. Must be through stoichiometry. Woohoo! And where are we going to start that lovely stoichiometry problem from? Well, from the only place that we have additional information, and that would be this sodium hydroxide solution. That's going to be my starting point for my lovely stoichiometry problem. Now you're given two numbers, milliliters and molarity. Always start your stoichiometry problem off with the measurement, that 27.5 milliliters. Don't really like milliliters, but they're convenient to measure, so we're immediately going to convert that into liters. And now that I'm in my unit of liters, I need to convert to moles. But I need a conversion factor between moles and liters for sodium hydroxide. I'm luckily given one. That's my molarity. Moles over liters is molarity. So I'm just going to fill in my numbers here. 0.15 moles per 1 liter. And now that I'm through to moles, it's time to apply my mole-to-mole ratio. I'm going to go from sodium hydroxide to HCl, and that is a 1:1 molar ratio. Time to plug and chug, and I find that my final answer is 0.00413 moles of HCl. That's exactly what I was looking for. So I'm going to plug that into the top half of my molarity equation, moles divided by liters. And that's a little bit what it looks like, and when you solve it out, you end up finding out that your HCl is 0.413 molar. Pretty awesome stuff.